Take one. Cut.
All right, guys, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome back to the pod.
Podcast.
Hey.
We decided on a name for it, right? Van Brain.
Van Brain.
Van Brain.
Van Brain.
Not Van Brain podcast. Just Van Brain.
Just Van Brain.
Just
Right?
Van Brain.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because podcast is redundant.
It is a podcast. Yeah, but
Yep.
a lot of podcasts do have podcast in the title.
Podcast.
Podcast.
What if you had a podcast that was a podcast about other podcasts, and you had the people from that podcast on, and all you did was talk about, so what do you do on your podcast?
PPPP,
And the guys
dude.
just taking notes the whole time.
Brilliant, mate.
Yeah,
We just had like a super long emotional discussion,
we did.
Yep.
and now we're having like really
Lighthearted, jovial.
yeah.
That's the aim. Yeah. Well, sometimes you just gotta like have a sesh with your boys, you know.
We like went to talk about biz, and then I was just like, well, I wasn't there because, blah, and then I vomited all this emotional stuff,
Life stuff.
and then we all did that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
trying
fun.
to. It's a chain reaction. You puked. He was like, he saw you puke, and he was like, "Ugh."
No, I got it.
And then I was like, oh, bro.
It was like that, but with passionate manly weeping.
Yeah.
No, but maybe when we get to know the the audience well enough, we'll do that on camera. But we don't know you guys yet.
Nah,
we
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
you guys.
It's true. I was debating it. I was like, is this what they want? And I was like, probably not. And then I was
Yeah.
like, then I had the analogy about the ball getting warmed up for like tennis or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
I was like, this is what
Well,
this
you
is
should
warm up.
You should say that because
Yeah.
they don't know. What we're
there was
talking
this
about.
analogy that Neil deGrasse Tyson said about warming up, like getting the conversation warmed up or whatever. And he was talking about tennis players like warming up the ball, which seems kind of weird, but I guess like when the ball gets hit, it like contracts and then expands. And when it does that enough times, you're like literally putting energy into the ball.
Yeah, that's super wild.
That's crazy. That's science. So
Yeah, it is weird with like energy, right? So you think about like sound and light are forms of energy, you know. Mm-hmm. So when you like intention behind energy is like how they describe like magic, like how occult people describe that as you have intention.
magic with a K.
Yes, magic with a K.
With the.
So it is wild that there is some truth to that, where like you're putting stuff out there, you're putting energy into the room or into a space.
Yeah.
It affects that space.
We were talking about verbal processing too, and just how sharing your thoughts and emotions helps you realize them even more than just having them inside you.
Identification.
That's crazy.
What's what they say about like teaching? You know, when you teach something, you get to you get to understand a little bit more because you're saying it out loud. You're going through it in a different way.
Right.
So in a way, when you're doing that verbally processing, even your own stuff, you're like saying it out loud. It like gives it a different light.
Yeah, you deconstruct it. You're identifying everything about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I started teaching guitar, and all the fundamentals are coming back.
Oh yeah.
And having to talk about music to somebody who's just starting makes you like, it's like when you like a scientist or somebody who's really smart and they put something in the words that make you understand it.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
It is.
Yeah, and doing that with music, helps you understand it more. For sure.
Absolutely, because you're forced to put it into words.
Yeah.
Instead of just feeling it, or especially with something that's artistic, like when you watch people talk about acting too, it's like that where they're talking about accessing emotions and
Right.
and like it's a visceral thing. It's people talk about flow state and getting in the zone and jamming and like just everything goes away and you get that sweet spot. There's many names for it, but it's basically that ceasing thinking and just getting into that sweet groove, you know?
Yeah, like doing that with your bandmates. Like, well, when we talk about music, we can be like, like the second time, ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da, and then we have like just gibberish words kind of, which I know like tons of bands write that way.
Absolutely.
But then like you can't talk like that to your, student who's just picked up a guitar a year ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to be like.
Well, because it's self-expression, and I mean, we've all been doing it long enough that we've already mastered the idea of trying to express. Like, we're beyond really like just doing rudiments. Like, we are learning how to express ourselves with ease or with accuracy.
Well, the other thing is too. people that are rock musicians have a unique thing that like classical and jazz musicians don't necessarily have, where they are all like internalizing arrangements. Like everything is memorized.
Oh, right.
So like I don't know if you've ever jammed with anybody that was classically trained and doesn't jam, like doesn't like improvise. It's hard for them to do that. That's not the same thing.
Totally.
So us being like coming from the school of like we feel it and then we like, oh yeah, I guess that's an A minor. You know what I mean? Like we just feel it and then we figure out what it is. And then to be able to talk about it.
Yep.
A lot of times it's not that way. It's like a very like I learned to read music, and when you look and you write music, there is a logic to the visual of how it looks. I just never like personally, I never needed to write things down that way.
Yeah.
So it's a skill that I had long forgotten because it just doesn't, for a rock musician.
How long did you do that? Like learn music?
I took music theory in high school.
Gotcha.
So my high school had college level music classes.
Gotcha.
And I took both years of that. So they taught a lot about basic music theory and like how to read and write. And like you'd be doing harmonies, and a lot of times, you look visually like one goes down, the other one goes up, or like they just make a nice sense visually.
That's cool.
Where you could almost do stuff and not know how it was going to sound, but know it would sound good because it looks
just
good.
the way it looks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
So I would write like that just for fun.
Yeah.
But and just to like play it back and hear what it sounded like. But it was like
cool.
too much to learn. Like a lot of people that had already been doing it were people that took lessons as kids and already knew how to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So I like picked up enough about it and then realized like me playing, like I was in a punk band at the time. I did not need to know that to write my songs.
So it's like the
so I
opposite.
just like forgot about it, So I couldn't do it now.
Cursive.
Yeah.
I can't do that now.
Yeah, for me, it really all stems from like how when I was younger, up until like I was about like 16, I had struggled with developing my inner monologue because it was all just music.
I remember you saying that.
That's wild.
So like for the first half of my life, or actually more,
You're just rolling around with like Neil Peart drum solos in your head for
Dude.
like 10 years.
Well, I mean, yeah, I genuinely I heard like
great.
even to this day, like because I didn't want to lose it. You know what I mean? When I developed my inner monologue. And so, like, in the end, I just tried my best to learn how to turn it down.
So you always have, like, background.
Dude, I literally, if music isn't playing. So the thing is like, the thing with music and why I think one of the reasons why I connected with listening to music so much is when I can match what I'm thinking in my head to the music, it's silent. Like, I don't have to think about it because the sound's there. My brain isn't, like, using resources to, like, replicate it or whatever. I guess is in my brain what I think is happening. Like, I can actually, it's like I was able to think better, like have some semblance of one when I was listening to music. So I'd always listen to music and walk around and talk out loud and think.
Right.
And like listen to what I was saying to like actually know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
See, that's so interesting. Like I relate to that hardcore because I have music in my head all the time.
Yeah.
And I have forever.
Right.
But it was never just that. You know what I mean? Like, I had other shit going on.
Yeah. That's me. I have the music, but I also have the voice.
Well, so what I've learned through like turning it down was that the voice was always there.
Yeah. You just couldn't hear it.
I just couldn't hear it.
That makes sense.
Because I didn't have control. So like I was doing shit throughout my life, mostly instinctually.
Yeah.
And without really much thought.
But if you think about that, like through like, it's really interesting because you thinking about music, like you generating, I mean, presumably music that does not exist sometimes, right?
All the time.
You're composing.
All the time.
So your mind
is what it
is in this like engineering state of like putting things together, and that's how like you're processing things.
Yeah.
And I think about that as, because that's, I mean, honestly, I didn't chime in, but as a songwriter, sometimes that's how you write a song. You just hear a thing and then you pick it up, and if you're close enough to write it down or to play it, then you work it out.
Yeah,
it's true.
I do shit like that all the time. Where you're like, like that song "Keep Your Cool." I was just like worked up about my son having a temper and like just like keep your cool. Just like it didn't even sound like that at first. You just rolling it around, keep your cool, and then like you think cool vibes. It just your brain just does it. So it's cool that like you don't write complete songs, but your brain knows how to do it. So when you're like collaboratively writing, like like some of these songs we've been doing recently.
It's true.
It's like you're never like what, like you know what I mean, like that's something I think maybe we take for granted is like
that is true. We do
like. You are a musician, and sometimes you probably don't consider yourself one, or like maybe people don't consider the drummer always a musician. I think that's a trope.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the way your brain works, it's like wild to me that you haven't written songs.
To like put it in perspective for others, me and Justin have been like writing and recording albums and writing songs for forever, and Alex hasn't.
I'm just a drummer.
He's just a drummer.
Just a drummer.
But
yeah.
But then but we get in long discussions about arrangements and writing, and it's not just the songs; it's the lyrics, it's the guitar parts.
Yeah.
Well,
everybody's open to like.
I've been in bands. I've been in bands with just a drummer, and he just sits there and waits for the other people to make the decision,
right,
and then just like plays along as best he can figure out.
Yeah,
I've been in that band.
But it's weird that it's like I don't feel like he's lacking.
No,
you know what I mean. Like maybe in the only way it would just be like literally physically recording.
Yeah.
Like that's what the skill you don't have. But when it comes to like hearing music and even mixing and just like all that stuff, you would think that there'd be a bigger disconnect, but it's just because it's inside you.
Yeah. That is what it is.
Yeah.
There's less of a disconnect.
Yep.
We're all speaking the same language.
Yeah.
We all have that radio station in our heads.
One of the reasons too, like what makes it easier for me to like write songs as a drummer, as opposed to just like following along and actually having like a vision of what I think the drums should sound like, is because I have that music in my head.
Yep.
Yeah.
Part of how I access our jam and flow state is through matching that to what you guys are playing, and then in my mind imagining what the drums would be, and then playing to that.
Dude, it is weird. That is what it's like.
Yep.
It's like sometimes you're like all hearing the same song at the same time. Like sometimes we'll do it. Like I'll listen back to a jam, because we always start our sessions with jams. That's something you guys did long before I was involved.
Right.
It's just a great, like warming up the ball, like you said.
Totally, yeah.
It is that.
And us specifically, the three of us, even when we were 4-piece, the three of us would have extraordinary jams, and these songs just emerge from it. But the one thing that I really appreciate is sometimes when we all change at the same time, and it's like, what's going on? Like, come on, what is that? Like,
Dude. So true.
Like we just feel it on a dime. It just changes,
Like literally, that right there is one of the reasons why we've stayed so passionate about our music, because that is something that Winton also could do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
We fell into that, noticed it. Early on.
Very early on.
Yeah.
And that was one of the, it blew my mind the first time we ever did it.
Yeah.
When I was just like, oh my God, this change is working right now?
Yeah.
No way.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the thing about the original, like the OG Medusa lineup with Ty is like, there was that like push to be like exploratory,
Yes. Absolutely.
And like I feel like I didn't realize until getting to know Ty a bit more that like that's totally his personality, is like, what about if we do this? What about if we well, this is good, but what if we try this? Just having that
he was like
mind to experiment.
His great absolutely. Like the example I like to use is the riff in Beautiful Creature. Watch how I talk about music, where it's like it was his idea to play that riff the reverse.
Yeah.
And I was like, and apparently, like, I never studied songwriting. I never took guitar lessons. Just learned from YouTube and shit. But that's like that's a good that's a good trick, is to like reverse the riff.
Yeah.
Inversion. It's an inversion or something, whatever the term is. And Ty used that from the beginning. I was like, damn.
I used to do shit like that. I used to reverse like tapes of songs that I liked.
Yeah.
And just learn the riff backwards and be like, this is an original riff. I did that a few times because it never sounded like the other thing.
Yeah.
But you're like, ooh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's funny.
You can get away with that. I mean, you can get away with more than you think, especially these days. Like I'll see a chord progression that I like in a song and like tweak it a little bit.
Yep.
There's only 12 notes, bro.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, just a little tweak, and maybe it's the same chords, and it's just so rhythmically different that it's so different that I just have the same chords.
Oh,
yeah.
And then I'll write a song with it because I'm like, ooh, I love that chord progression.
Well, to be fair, too, the cool thing is and like I think, like I know like there are a lot of people who play guitar who don't really ever like access this fact that like rhythm is just as deep and vibrant as like melody theory. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like all of that stuff has so much like
Wait.
Yeah, wait, and
Yes.
and if you access that as a guitarist, I mean, I just think that opens a whole. Because like for me, like in my guitar journey, playing
Right.
guitar, like because
Starting from rhythm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I would go to people's houses who had guitars
Yeah.
and then drum on it with the pick,
Yeah.
holding the strings and,
it's
just
like,
making.
It's like you skipped like 5 years
Yeah.
of like right hand guitar, like of guitar playing with your right hand.
Well, it's gonna be
Yep.
like that if you ever started to play piano. Like I was trying to learn piano, but I just don't have the mind for learning something like that right now.
I can jam
But
on a
it's-
piano.
but it's like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
because you have like
Rhythm
you
in
know
your
what
fingers.
rhythm is,
Yeah.
and then I know what like harmony and melody are supposed to
Right.
be.
Yep.
I can find my way, you know.
Totes,
so
totes.
definitely, it's cross training.
Well,
right?
the thing that fucks me up
Musical
on piano
cross-training.
is mixing the naturals and the sharps and flats.
Oh yeah.
I can play interesting, okay sounding stuff on all the white keys, or I can play interesting, okay sounding stuff on all the black keys.
Yeah.
But I can't mix them.
yeah.
I can't, and like I just don't know, and now that I'm learning through like guitar, which is great, because like I've been doing all that jamming stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
What I'm learning on guitar is that there's like little like hop spots.
Yes.
To go between these things, there's little like places you just sort of like, boop,
Yeah.
and then you're like there, and you get access to that. I mean, basically half step. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And like that, I think. That's been nice for me.
Yeah.
That's been nice for me.
I had a thought and I just lost it too.
We're
Yeah.
talking about learning guitar, learning piano, cross training instruments, rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rhythm. Ah, man,
Well, we'll
I
just
can't
have
remember.
we'll
Yeah.
pick it up if you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, rhythm is crazy. One time, little side jaunt. One time I was when I lived in New York, we had keys to this studio, this jazz studio, right? And we were fucking early 20s. We were wandering around the city, doing acid, and we come back and we're coming up the elevator. We had the keys. A couple of the other people who worked there had keys too. So we started to hear these like like drums, like more than one drum.
Yeah.
We're like coming up the elevator that's getting louder and louder and louder. And the other people that had the keys, one of them was like sitting in the main office area with like three other guys playing rhythm, like playing like congas and random shit. And we were like in that sweet tripping spot where we're observing this, and I still remember burned in my mind, like they're like throwing like they're like talking about what they're doing but not using words and like this certain kind of like like subdivisions and just the way that
Right.
they were like four people doing shit, like it blew my mind that how deep rhythm could get.
Oh
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that is definitely
That's awesome.
something that especially in the way that music in the masses really just centers on like four in the floor a lot of times. A lot of the nuance of like odd times and subdivisions can be something that people are unfamiliar with, you know?
Yeah.
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 I the first thought I have with Odd Times and it pulling off so well is "Money" by Pink Floyd.
Oh yeah.
That's like one of the first riffs I remember hearing that like didn't feel odd, but
You knew it wasn't.
I
Yeah.
knew it wasn't.
Yeah.
4/4. And I know a lot of people use that example too.
It's a
Like,
great one.
Yeah. I've definitely heard other like music teachers use that as an example for Odd Times pulling off.
We do it in Love actually pretty well.
Yeah. We feel like we achieved that pretty well in our, not the last release, but the one before it.
A little bit of love, yeah.
Little Bit of Love. Check that out on the interwebs.
No, but that is one thing I'm proud of with that song is that
Yeah.
it's like when you start to think about songwriting, like things you want to do that are like about the craft of it, like doing an odd time to do an odd time is all well and good.
Oh, it's gotta be fun to listen to.
No, not only that, but when you can do it
Is
to
this
the
good?
when you can do it to the point where people don't know, then
Yeah.
then you've done something and you've folded it in to being natural.
Where it's still
not,
grooving.
It's not
Well-
odd.
well,
It's
yeah.
natural.
Well, luckily, like for me, it was kind of cool because like I grew up on Rush. You
Yeah.
know, like I remember pretty distinctly being super proud of when I was 4 years old, being able to list the entire Rush discography in order.
What?
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
because I'm like that's how deep my Rush obsession goes.
I didn't know it went that deep.
Oh yeah, so
Dude,
like
it's deep.
That's surprising.
He
Even
outranks
for
me. He outranks me in nerddom of Rush by like
That's so
a
funny.
lot.
Yeah. It makes sense. Makes sense.
And I love Rush. So
but like so I mean I was already inundated with Odd Times.
Yeah,
like Odd
it
Times
wasn't weird to you.
already didn't feel weird to
Absolutely.
me. But then at the same time, like I've been born a drummer, man.
Yeah,
like
man.
there's no way that wasn't my destiny.
But for like Hunter and myself, like we discovered, like you didn't hear Odd Times on the radio or like most of the time. So
No,
it was
not.
like you can probably feel what I'm saying here. But there was definitely a time when I heard things like that and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa! Like you start to think about that's why,
Oh,
how music can do other stuff, and
Absolutely.
like how far can you go, and like what can you do with it?
Yeah.
it's really enticing as someone that's learning an instrument. you know?
Totally, yeah. I'm trying to think of some, like Black Dog, like how they would always go into the riff, and I was like, how the fuck they do that? Apparently, there's a little stick in the background, a little stick.
Oh,
Digga,
yeah?
digga, da, da. Yeah. And
That
then
makes
there's,
sense.
and I can't remember the first song that, maybe it was Money. I
Probably,
don't know.
probably was.
Yeah, but I remember not being able to figure out how the riff was circulating.
Yeah.
Like I could tell that it was recycled, like it kept repeating itself, but I couldn't guess when it was going to go back.
yeah.
And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know that was time signatures at the time. I
Yeah.
just knew that I was hearing something, and I was trying to figure it out.
I had it described to me like when I was taking music theory as like, you know, the this note means this and this. I mean, we all know that to some degree. And that's like fine to explain it that way. But it really didn't click with me till when I was living in New York. And there was this guy, Matt Grossman, who was like this hired gun guitar player, just like really like nerdy. Look, he was like wears like a Matrix coat and like glasses.
Nice.
And he's like, but the thing about this is, and he's just one of those guys. But he always told me about, like, he's like, you got to listen to Rush, and you got to listen to Yes, and you got to listen to Led Zeppelin. And I wasn't
Right.
into those bands. And I was like, but I don't like those bands. He's like, I know. That's why you need to listen to them.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, all right. And I was like, but his voice, it was my complaint for all those bands.
Oh,
but
wow.
his voice. And he's like, yeah, you that won't bother you when you start to listen to like all these other things.
Right.
And he was pointing out to me these time signatures in Rush, and we were moving pictures. He was playing that, and it was just like, it's just 2 and 3. That's it.
Right.
1 2 1 2 1 2 is 6, or is 1 2 3 1 2 3 is 6.
Yeah.
And 5 is just 1 2 3 1 2, or 1 2 1 2 1 2, or 1 2 1 2 1. You know,
Right,
it's like there's a
right.
1 sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's mainly just 2s and 3s. So
Right,
you don't need to
right.
count to 5 or 7 or any of that shit.
That's
You just-
fair.
You just
Yeah. I didn't get it that way.
like for me
But
when
no,
I
neither
when
did
I
I.
when I even imagine
I like that, though.
love, it's 3 and 2.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
It's just
Yeah.
the 2.
I think that's. I remember watching because John Ferrara from Consider the Source.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes they'll put out counting videos, or like maybe they just clipped one from like one of their lessons or something. I'm pretty sure that's how
He's a
I'm good at that.
beast.
Pretty sure that's how they count too.
Yeah, it's the easiest way.
Twos or ones and twos.
How you count by the subdivision.
Yeah, the subdivision.
The
Yeah.
subdivision. So yeah.
Yeah, that's not what I did. I'm probably gonna try that some.
That's not how you. What do you do? You just count to 7.
I just count to.
Me too.
And I
straight
just
up count to 5.
Yep. And
Yeah.
instead of saying all of 7, I just say set
Se.
because it's got to be percussive and it can't have the set fin
That's
because
why.
that fucks with the time.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. That's interesting.
Because you don't want to occupy that vocal space with the set
Yeah,
fin.
it helps like definitively mark it in your brain. Like,
Yep.
yeah, no, I feel that. That's cool.
That's what I
Never
did.
did that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Well-
in Atomic 7, to
well-
me, that's always 4 and 3. That's how I count.
right.
I think that
that.
I saw this thing on YouTube where the guy was just like, if you're having trouble with it, just say hippopotamus in like subdivisions, like hippopotamus,
That's cool. That's a
hippopotamus,
good one.
hippopotamus.
I actually don't even. For Atomic 7, I don't even think about the time anymore. I just,
That's true. That's
I just
true.
know the riff.
I haven't thought about that in a long time.
And I
though.
do know that John, like the bassist, John Ferrara, once again, amazing bassist, by the way. Check him out.
Consider this.
Oh,
one,
yeah.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
insane.
Insane.
But he, oh god, I just lost it. What were God damn.
Talking about subdividing notes and how you count things. Odd times.
Yeah. So when he writes riffs, he will just write the riff and then count it later.
Count it later.
He'll feel it out.
I like that.
Yeah, and I never knew that. I always thought it was the other way around for people like him.
Engineer it that way.
He was they're another level to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, they're just writing crazy shit. No, just feeling it the same way as we do.
Well, it's the getting used to the feel of it. So everybody gets used to the feel of 4/4 as a musician, and then some people are like, whoa, like the waltz feel 3/4, like 6/8. That's a different feel.
Yeah.
So it's like getting used to the feel of 7 and the feel of 5.
Well, and there's a pretty huge gap between writing music and playing music in terms of like just the things you need to do it. You know what I mean? Like the abilities that you need to have. Yeah, the skill sets you need to have to do it.
Totally.
Oh yeah. People. There's a lot of people. I look at it like painters. Like there's people like I went to school with. And I took a bunch of art classes because there was a lot of girls in the art classes, and there are not many guys. So I took the art classes, and I'd be like getting like winning awards and like doing all this crazy shit, making abstract weird shit. And then these people would also be winning awards, and they're drawing like just the bowl of fruit on there, like perfectly drawing the bowl of fruit.
Right.
It's like that's still art. It's still the same thing, but it's not the same skill set. You know?
Yeah.
So people that can play guitar play it real well.
Yep.
But if they're gonna play anything or write something that moves you in a way that maybe somebody that can only play 3 chords can, it's like not the same thing.
Yeah, like I instantly think of Nirvana.
Yeah.
Great example. And then like that gets so many people playing music.
But then there's Rush, another trio. So there's they both no one's you can't quantitatively say one is better than the other.
Absolutely, it's just music is so
it's entirely subjective.
Entirely subjective.
Entirely subjective.
I mean, you could be like, I mean, a lot of punk singers, like I wasn't a huge punk guy because I have trouble getting into the voices.
Sure.
Like they're just flat and they don't care about pitch as much, you know?
Absolutely.
It's all about energy and like delivery.
And the lyrics.
Which I respect.
Yeah.
And the lyrics.
Yeah.
And I respect that too.
Yeah.
But, like I said, the other stuff matters to me a lot. But it's still somebody else will just love that band just as much as I'll love the band that I love, and it will impact them just the same.
Oh yeah,
and that gives me hope for me as a musician when I'm like, oh, I can't sing like fucking, I can't do crazy trills and like technically I'm not crazy good.
Yeah.
But that doesn't fucking matter.
No,
it doesn't. You just have to write something that you feel and somebody else feels.
Yeah.
That's where we all write from.
The trickiest thing for me is like as someone who has to sing my own stuff sometimes, like writing in my key, like writing in my range. I almost never write with that consideration.
Yeah.
Like I just like, well, this is what it is. Then I have to like figure out how I'm going to do it.
Me too.
It's harder. It's easier when I write something where I'm like, well, Hunter could do it. Like I can't do that, but Hunter might be able to do it.
Yeah.
So it's less of an issue now.
I know Dave Grohl talks about like when he writes songs on his acoustic, he's singing all the songs up like this. And he's playing them quiet on the acoustic, and he's imagining how he's singing it, like screaming in his head.
Yeah.
But all the songs, he writes them falsetto.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Because it's gonna get that.
Because he's thinking about
voice.
singing it in the chest voice loud.
Yeah, that makes so much sense for him.
Yeah, it does. And I've written like that a little bit. But my favorite, like the best place to write from for me is like nobody's home, and I can just write from that point already.
Yeah.
Where I'm singing like boisterously.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, fuck, I need to get over that because half the time somebody's home and I can't write like that.
Don't you hear it in your head though?
Sometimes I do.
Like,
sometimes I will already hear the song.
Yeah.
And other times I'm like, I just want to sit down and see what I come up with.
Oh, yeah.
Without hearing nothing in my head.
So like,
and I'll just fucking channel something.
Yeah. I don't do that as much.
Yeah.
I like grab it. I grab it and capture the lightning when it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I've grown to that as I gotten older. Like I never used to, like when I started writing, it was always just sit down and
that's crazy.
See what happens.
It feels like really clinical to me. Yeah. Like the idea of doing that with us is exciting for me.
Yeah.
Because that's like what we were talking about, the jamming and getting in that and saying, hey, there's something here and then developing it. Yeah. I feel like it is harder to do that by yourself.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
Less riffing to go off of.
Unless you capture it or like something. What I find is what comedians will talk about with their bits. Will like you think of something, it's funny, but if you keep thinking about it, then you know there's something there.
Totally.
So I'll have like songs or like riffs or ideas that like I'll think of, and I'll have written like I have written whole songs before I played them.
Right.
Because it's just just the exercise of thinking about it and this should happen then and and then when you pick it up it does change, but
Absolutely.
It's like, it's weird how it only happens that way because I keep thinking about it. And it's like,
Right.
I got to do something with this idea. It's not getting out. I need to get it out.
Yeah, it's a great filtering process. Sometimes it's hard to find the ones that are good.
Or you like it because you made it. I feel
Yeah.
like certain people that I know that shall remain nameless, I know right that way where it's like they become it's too personal, and then they can't have criticism towards it.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's like and I felt that way about songs too.
Yeah.
Where it's like I wouldn't want to bring it to the band because I like it the way it is.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
and that's the thing when you're in a collaborative artistic situation, you can't get 100% your way. Nor should you want that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not as fun.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not as fun.
It might be hard to see that if
No.
you don't get a taste for it.
Well, you have to trust the people you're working with.
That is the
Like
big
if
thing.
you're like
Yeah.
I relate it to the Always
it.
Sunny guys. Like when they talk about their joke writing process, it reminds me of our writing process.
That's cool.
Like they'll argue passionately over like one little thing, and it's like, but it does matter because we're like pushing and pulling and trying to make this thing, and like maybe it's ends up marginally better because of that.
Totally.
And at the end of the day, we're all friends, so we can
yeah.
we can have those heated discussions about
Exactly.
whether to add a gun click or something.
It's so true.
Yeah.
No, it's the thing is too, in a way, like the tension creates a good product as well.
Yep.
Like that tension ultimately is energy, and like that
Oh,
tension
yeah.
is not necessarily inherently bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that like we ride that tension pretty well.
It never gets heated in the room.
Nah,
About art
not,
stuff.
not too bad.
No.
Never.
We get passionate about ideas, but then
Nobody's like ever fuming about an
No,
idea.
I
though,
think
you
we've
know?
I think
Yeah.
we've got the fact that we try everything out.
Yeah.
It really just
That helps.
it really just sorts everything out that way
Right.
because an idea is usually there's very rarely two ideas that are both as good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually
some kind of merriment of it.
it's an idea or one of them is clearly better.
Right.
You know?
Well, for me too, like when I'm like when we are actually legit like playing a song and we're like playing it over and over again to like get the arrangement and
Yep.
to like actually kind of explore in the song, like I'm really consciously thinking like what's the role of the drums in this part to aid or uplift or draw attention to things in the song or
Yeah.
moods of the song. What is the role here? And like sometimes like I feel like we're all doing that.
Yeah.
And so, like, when there's two ideas, it's like this disagreement, or not disagreement, but different feelings about what role that my instrument should be playing.
Speaking specifically of drums.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Well,
That's
yeah.
true, yeah.
Well, that's
Because
a good
that's
example
what-
though, because yours is often up because you control the song a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like dynamics.
I've said this
and
often.
that's the arrangement. That's
Yeah.
the fucking song.
I've said this often that real quick is worth it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
that at the Medusa Disco is Alex's band.
Yeah.
You know, like
At heart.
is at the end of the day, like we make albums on our own, me and Hunter, and Ty and Winton both do too, the
Yep.
former members of the band. So it's like,
And Jason too.
yeah. So Alex's only musical out is the band, and really, the proof's in the pudding of when you take a Hunter song or a Justin song and make it a Medusa. The thing that really, like you said,
Yeah.
your contribution controls the vibe and the energy
It's
of the
so
song.
true. Yeah.
Sorry, I
it's-
did cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
You
you're fine.
still got it.
Well, because I think that like the I try it when there's a discrepancy in like what roles like one of us thinks it should take. I think that both roles are important, so I try to find something that is a merriment and actually helps support both of those roles.
Totally.
Because I think that's the best way to do it. You like splice together
Yeah.
all the things that we all want in the song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that's often the what's the word? The answer for us has been use both ideas a lot of times
Yeah.
as well.
In
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah, like when I'm teaching my students and I'm like, well, you can play it this way and you can play it this way. If you loop it, or if the song has a loop of some sort, you can use both ideas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Use a simpler one the first time, then
Yeah.
use a more complicated one the second time. Have a little
Yeah.
bit of progression through it, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, Alex is very on the side of that always. Which
Oh, yeah.
there's bands like that's a progressive rock thing. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, do that a lot. Where they'll have three verses, but not one of them is the same arrangement.
Right.
Rush does that too.
I think with exceptions, like you shouldn't do anything for more than 2 bars. Like the same
Yeah.
thing. You should add
This is how. See,
Yeah. You should add something in your music, even if it's like the most minute infinitesimal change.
yeah.
At least every 2 bars of music that you play.
It's so cool. Sorry, I'm like so like coming from the songwriting perspective, and then bringing the song to Alex, and then he does his cool drum stuff to your songs. Like, I could never imagine the part he's about to lay down. No. And he lays down stuff that is just like, that's part of the reason we say it's your band, because it's such a contribution to the song, and it dictates so much.
Yeah.
That, damn, yeah.
No, and I have this like sweet spot as the bass where like I'm like kind of Alex's advocate to like the harmony side, the melody side of things. Like, like no, my boy's right. Like, it does need that extra kick or like whatever it is. Like, and at the same time, you know, I'm like negotiating the rhythm from the other side. Like, I love being the bassist, especially in this band, because of how melodic the music is and how rhythmic Alex is. Like, because you know, good bassists, you don't realize how like much it rides and surfs the drums. But
oh my God.
You really got to do that. I mean, you listen to like Undertow. Undertow is a great example of like the solo 100 Root version, which is great, and that's, you know, perfect by itself. Did not need another version, really.
Fair enough.
But it's so good
Yeah.
that we had to get a hold of it.
Yeah, I'm so glad we did it.
Me too.
Yeah,
but like, you hear what happened to it, just that groove and like just the weight that the drums put into it.
Yeah, man.
And it just allows for, you know, all that space. So yeah,
It's
kudos to Alex again.
Yeah, I always think one more analogy. I think about what Taylor Hawkins said. He played for, what's that woman's name?
Alanis Morissette.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was like,
That's a great
her.
example. Yeah.
He thanked her for letting him, like, quote unquote, something like put a bunch of stupid drum shit in her songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, for like that, I feel that with you. And I wouldn't use those words, but
Yeah, stupid drum shit. That's
like Alex is throwing in his drum shit, and like I'm like, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Because like I want you to be happy with what you lay down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
plus it makes it
the song
so
better
good,
and different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I love that dynamic.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you really want out of it. So there's 2 types of bands, right? So there's somebody that writes songs and they have their army behind them and they are the captain, right?
Right.
And then there's the fucking band of rogues that are like trying to pull off a heist, you know, and need to collaborate. The D&D party, you know.
Did one of you guys say this, or maybe it was Justin Green? He said that, like, or what's popular now is like everybody's pushing more like solo artist type, like even like Marcus King, like he's a new guy. He was Marcus King band for a while, but now that he's like signed with, or he's like getting produced by Dan Auerbach, and it's very much pushed as like a kind of a solo project. I think is what's getting pushed.
Yeah.
And that's what's blowing up, you know?
Less bands.
Less band
these
type.
days.
Yeah, it's not so much the name. Actually, like Greta Van Fleet might be one of the examples of a band actually going up and not just one guy
You're
with
totally right.
with an army behind him.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. That is one thing I'm happy about. But it didn't like catch on as much as I wish it did, though. Like, part of me wished the Greta Van Fleet thing would have like more of a storm behind it.
You're right.
You know?
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was just kind of them.
Whatever
you
you can say about them, the idea of younger people doing rock music and having rock be popular again. I mean, but if you think about it, it's actually interesting because I've been watching a lot of like Quentin Tarantino movies over the break because I just love Quentin Tarantino.
Hell yeah.
But what I found out what I love more about than anything is watching people talk about the stuff they do if I already like it. Like band documentaries, like interviews, like that gets my history juices going, you know. So listening to him talk about the history of films, and then he says like, right now is the '80s part 2. He's like, everything's safe, everything's formulaic, technology is the pushing thing, and that's how it is with music too. And eventually, there's gonna be a pushback. There just is. Guitars will come back. We'll be there. Yeah. You know. So I'm really fucking waiting for it. But it's definitely gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, I definitely I mean, growing up, I really didn't like not guitar-related music.
Sure.
Like, I matured into being able to understand. And I think a lot of it is, too, understanding, like, the world better and, like, being able to draw a connection to, like, lyrics a little bit better now as well. So, but, like, I grew up not liking that stuff because, to me, the human element was less.
Yeah.
Because most of what is being heard is literally not even made. Like it's made, it's crafted, but it's
Yeah.
not played by a human. That
Right.
sound that's coming out, that is a machine's expression of humanity.
Right.
There's no direct human control of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's programmed.
I was the same way growing up too. I was way more of a what's the word? I would say snob.
A purist.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
purist.
not.
Guitar
Yeah,
purist.
it's not.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
That is the music that was. Well, I guess I should. I'm a little older than you, but when I grew up, the '90s, that was like Nirvana, like that shit.
Right.
Like guitar music was what it was. It was more polarized. It was you didn't listen to rap and that kind of shit,
Yeah, that's
or you didn't listen to guitar stuff.
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was there was very little. I mean,
Crossover.
There was new metal, but let's not talk about that.
I like new metal.
That's like NU, right?
Yeah,
New, yeah,
yeah.
like New Gundam. No.
Is it spelled that
We
way?
don't get that segment.
Is it really?
Is it?
That's funny.
No, yeah. Yeah,
You
it's
should. That's a metal band waiting to
like
happen.
New Gundam. Wow, yeah. Dan.
New Gundam
Yeah.
metal.
New
New metal
Gundam.
Gundam.
I don't know,
Check it out.
but
Oh damn.
you know, I don't think there needs to be a new metal. I mean, obviously, it didn't last long.
No, but I really enjoyed seeing more, like, because I felt like as I, like, grew up, I understood that, like, I feel like a lot of the earlier stuff, that human element was a lot there.
Absolutely.
Because there was so much actual direct manipulation of, like, matter. Like, these people were literally, like, creating something that's not just, like, on a computer screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
But see, what I ended up liking in retrospect, because I feel you. That's like people playing drums and turntables and shit.
Yeah.
But what I ended up realizing is the version of that I liked a lot is the Beastie Boys.
yeah, Beastie Boys, I always
Beastie
did
Boys,
the
like that
Beastie
song
Boys.
Sabotage. Like they're playing the drums and bass and guitar and
Yeah.
turntables. It's like, it is that, but they're not like saying, oh, this is rock. It's just like, is rock.
Well, and to me, I think a lot of the times with a lot of that style of music, like the vocals were more like a way to portray the message. No, I'm good. To portray the message, and less like a vehicle to portray music. And I think that, like, you know what I mean, like musicality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. And like, I think that's like one of my biggest introductions to like that style of music, and like rap and hip hop and stuff was like people who like rap really fast. Like Twista and Busta Rhymes and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because their voices are so rhythmic and percussive.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of variance too. Like, you know, they'll rap on a flow, which, you know, basically is like a time signature, and then they'll change it.
Yeah.
They'll rap with a different subdivision.
They clearly have some type of
It's super rhythmic.
knowledge of like or
Yeah.
intuit now. You know what I'm saying?
But that,
Intuitive.
Yeah, intuitive.
But
yeah,
that like opened the door for me in understanding like more intrinsically or intuitively sort of like the percussive element to it.
totally.
Well, I think that you hit something that I can extrapolate way broader, is that people have their preconceptions. I mean, this is even broader than music, but they have their preconceptions of what they think they like and what they don't like. And
Oh yeah.
I was very much growing up did not like Beatles or Led Zeppelin or anything that was considered old or fancy. I just liked modern stuff. No
Right.
hip. Like I was super limited.
So interesting.
For someone who loved music.
Yeah.
So I had to like go through like when I lived in New York, and I was like the only like kid who was into the style of music I was into, and everybody was into funk and like jazz and all this other shit.
Right.
And when you're talking to people about music and you know you like 3-chord rock, it's just like you just seem like you don't even know what you're talking about.
Right,
So
right.
I like clearly I just was like, all right, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. And then sort of like whenever you can put your mind into that, like you said, you didn't like anything that wasn't with a guitar, but when you heard something that
Or
kind of like
more or less drums, but
real
real
instruments,
drums.
yeah.
But when you
Acoustic
heard something
instruments,
that sort of keyed you onto it, it was like, okay, maybe there is something here. And now, I mean, when we're driving around and you're picking music, rap like that happens more than not.
Yeah, I
So
listen,
it's-
dude. I
it's
listen
in
to a
the mix.
lot of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
So who knows?
I love it. I learned a lot about it, just throughout life, and gained an interest in it.
Yeah, I've had to open myself up to the world of pop music in that sense.
Yeah,
And like, I mean, like
dude, I
almost
hated pop.
bubblegum pop, but not. But like, I'll use the example of Tame Impala
Yeah.
because I always I like their old stuff more. But what's the one that has Less I Know the Better on it? The one
Currents?
Yeah, Currents.
Yeah.
That was their first dip into like pop,
Yeah.
the psychedelic pop thing. And I fucking hated it.
Oh, I hated it so
yeah.
much.
Yep.
I like it now.
It is good.
I do like it.
Yeah.
And that helped me open up to the world because he was one of the first guys I heard also say, because I thought they were a rock band. I found out it was just one guy.
Yeah.
And it was like the clickbait article was like, Tame Impala is not a rock band. And I was like, what? And then I clicked it and found out that there was just one guy. And then I found out that he had an adoration for pop music and pop vocal melodies. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and that, but I didn't understand it. I was like, he's fallen onto the dark side.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? But now that I've gotten older, I feel like, okay, I can get with that. And I can extrapolate at least something from this music. I mean, there has to be a reason to some degree that it's popular.
Bingo.
You know?
And that goes with everything.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, maybe I could learn something melody-wise. And I try to write better melodies. I use vocal or pop as like a inspiration with melodies.
Well, there's also, the thing that I realized is not everybody uses music the same way. So if you only listen to music for something to dance to and for whatever, like you can probably map it out to like 6 different reasons people like music, whatever. Mm-hmm. And if you only have one of those things, then you're not going to like a lot of shit because those things are designed for one thing. Like, I never was a big fan of like techno or anything like that.
EDM.
But when you're at a rave, it's perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what would you want? You wouldn't want things to stop and like, you want it just to keep going. So you see, everything has a space. And really, I realized, if something is super popular and a bunch of people say they like it, it is good. I don't get it.
Right. Exactly.
And instead of the proof, it becomes the burden is on me to get it.
Yeah.
Not on it to be good to me.
Yeah.
So I feel like once you click on that, it's like, oh shit, it's in my benefit to like everything.
Yes.
Fuck.
You did talk about kind of opening yourself up to more music before.
Yeah.
And like really putting yourself in that headspace of, well, I guess it was because you had to go back and listen to those old classic rock bands. That was probably the start of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it was for me. I feel like mine, I don't know. I guess I didn't have as much of a big shift like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't so closed off to such a long,
shocked.
or like a huge era of music.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Which is wild, yeah. I grew up literally listening to that era. Like 60s, 70s. That was my shit.
Well, then for a while I was like, fuck anything that's after 1990. Like seriously.
Yeah.
So I remember like I still am finding out about new stuff now or stuff that comes out. I'll be like, meh. Or like as much as I did like the Silk Sonic record, I was like, it just made me want to listen to like Marvin Gaye and like the older shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, there doesn't have to be that. I can appreciate it for a new take on that, And it's like, it's like James Brown. It's like this is like that, but that's good,
Yeah.
So it's like the whole.
See, I didn't listen to that stuff.
Yeah.
And that Silk Sonic album is probably the closest thing to funk or whatever you just said that I've ever liked.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that
crazy.
makes it great.
That makes it great.
It's like Greta Van Fleet.
Right.
People don't know about Zeppelin.
Exactly.
They're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then it could be a way to
it's
find
so
out.
true. When you zoom out, it's like, that's a good thing.
Because people give them a lot of shit.
It's so true. I gave them shit when they first came out.
I've given them my amount of shit for sure.
I fucking love Zeppelin, so I was just like, well, the obvious thing.
But I saw them live, and there were parts of it that I thought was overblown and maybe like, overhyped. But it was good, and they are good at what they do.
Yeah, I follow them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to see what they're up to.
If they're watching, you guys want to have us on, we'll open for you.
Yeah, you guys play Philly? Let's go. Underground Arts? No, they're probably way bigger than that.
No, but we should play.
We should play Underground Arts. Underground Arts? No. You out there?
It's funny because we originally didn't intend on having these podcasts be super music focused. We just kind of like leave it open ended, but I mean, leave it to 3 dudes to talk about music.
Yeah.
The whole time. So if you guys don't know about music, then sorry about this episode, but this is what it's like. Sometimes it's in the van. The van brain gets very introspective.
It's true.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets fucking silly.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets both.
Yeah, we don't know what it's gonna be.
We don't.
We really don't. We try to leave it open, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I won't even try to leave it open. It just is.
Is.
It's fucking open. Van brain.
Van brain.
Van brain, it just is.
Yeah. It's a state of mind.
Yeah, it is.
It's a state of mind.
It's a flow state.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong about that. So we've been taking a break from playing for how long? Like 2 months.
Yeah.
For everybody to heal up.
Yep. Surgery. I got a hernia surgery.
Alex had his hernia surgery.
Yeah.
I'm still dealing with the same bullshit I was a year ago.
Right.
But it's getting better. just long time or.
So I think that's probably also we're talking about being in the room playing because we haven't done it.
Yeah, that's probably why.
It's
So
like
excited.
if we hadn't gotten laid in a while, we'd be
Yeah.
like, this chick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's self-expression, man. I mean, it's part of how I emotionally regulate.
Yeah.
Get
It's
out the stuff inside of me that I need to
Get
get
it
out to kind of function better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Helps me.
Yeah.
It's an outlet.
It's funny you were talking about to pivot on what you just said in a previous point.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about songs that are in my head and get too loud. I have to write them
Right.
and then they're out of my head.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think if you would have had that skill set as a youngin' to get the songs out,
Oh,
then
yeah.
you would have had room in your head.
Well, so luckily, I started playing drums when I was like 7 or 8, so the path was there.
That young?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He started mad young.
Yeah, my dad taught me. So like,
Because he had a kit in the house.
well, no, so they bought me. They didn't have a kit,
But he was a drummer.
He was a drummer.
So
yeah.
getting the kit wasn't a big deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
You know?
So,
That's
like-
a loud instrument for somebody who's not a drummer.
yeah,
Totally.
dude. Well, it is actually really hilarious. So like when I was 7, he got like a practice pad and a book called the Breeze Easy book because he studied under this dude named Dave Leiter. I think that was his name. Dave Leiter. Apparently he like knew Buddy Rich in some way. That's
sick.
what my dad had said. But
Nice.
he like went through the book with me and had me practice like stuff in that book a lot, like mostly the simple stuff. He didn't go too far with me. He just kind of gave me the basics. And
Yeah.
then on Christmas Eve they got super drunk, but that Christmas day, the Christmas after I turned 8, they bought me a drum set.
Yeah.
And they all got super drunk for like the first time in a while, so they were all hungover.
Nice.
And they were all hungover, and you know, and like they didn't really like when I was a kid, they didn't like drink around me at all. It was like the only time they were ever. And there was like sober people there
That's
who were
funny.
like chaperoning the kids, but like
You were still smacking those drums.
the next morning, oh yeah, there was no way they could tell me not to. I had been practicing on a practice pad
Yeah.
and pillows and crap for forever. So then
Yeah.
I get on the drums. My dad says, "All right, Alex, like so you know just quarter notes or eighth notes on the hi hat, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4 between the snare and the bass drum, and then just do 16th notes, 4 16th notes. Ooh, sorry. 4 16th notes on each drum, and then on the last one, hit
That's a beat.
Dude, that's
and then
You did that just then, like that?
yeah. The fact that
'Cause
you
I had
had
already-
like
Come on.
knowledge going into this,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's ridiculous.
yeah, because my dad.
That's why it's so
Well,
good.
when did you-
started
when did
so
you
young.
learn guitar?
I started when I was 12.
Yeah, me
but,
too.
But it was drums first. It was like a year of drums.
What?
It was. It was a year and a half of drums.
Yo, this is wild. My
Yeah.
stepdad was a drummer, so the only instrument I had in my house when I was like 10 and older was a drum set.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that's the
so-
first thing that I ever played.
Yeah, me
was
too.
drums too.
Yeah.
Everybody just wants to be a drummer though. If you really think about it,
Dude, drums are so fun.
Like the most fun thing to play.
So fun.
Go ahead.
it's
So you
so
had a
fun.
drum
Exhilarating.
set. A year of drums at 12.
Yeah. I think so. It's either I started at guitar at 12 and I had a drum set at 11.
Yeah.
Or I got the drum set. I got the drum set at 11. And it was mainly just because my brother had a guitar already, and I was like, "Well, I want to play something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play drums." And then
Absolutely.
we started playing music, and it literally wasn't long after that I had met Winton, and we had started playing together.
That's nuts.
And he played guitar, and I played fucking drums, dude.
That's so
It was-
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I did play guitar, and Winton would show me a couple of guitar things, like the Robbie Krieger, like the I don't know. Once again, that's how I talk about music.
Well, was it the songwriting aspect that led you to focus on guitar, or just you just came to you easier?
The guitar came way easier.
Yeah.
Like I found myself asking my brother to play his guitar every day.
Yeah.
I kept feeling so bad. I was like, yeah,
You know who was like that is Van Halen.
really?
Yeah. Alex Van Halen started
Yep.
off playing guitar and
Gotcha.
Van Halen played drums.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they just would switch.
Yeah,
Yep.
we switched.
That's crazy. That's
Well, we didn't really switch.
That's not uncommon between siblings.
Siblings, yeah.
Yep.
I had cousins. So my older cousin was like, well, I play lead guitar.
Right.
Fuck off. So then my second oldest cousin was like, well, I'm playing guitar too. So there's already 2 guitars, so fuck off.
Yeah.
So I had to get a bass
This ain't
and play
Skinner.
drums. Yeah. Yeah, this ain't Skinner, boy. There's only 3 of us, so someone get back there on the kit.
That's so funny.
But it's funny, I found old tapes of us back then. Like
Oh, I'm so
this is
young.
like pre my voice changing.
Nice.
And
dude.
I was drumming and singing lead, and then they
Sick.
would both play guitar.
Sick.
And
That's
we had songs. We took band, and we were arguing at band practice. Come on, guys! Like we took it very seriously
That's
from
so
like
great.
very early on. And our parents would be upstairs playing Pictionary and drinking,
Yeah.
because our parents would have been like, I don't know, in their early 30s at that point.
Right.
And parents and the cousins, and they get together and they do their shit. They're having fun, drinking, whatever. Kids go in the basement. We got amps and guitars down there. We're loving life.
Yeah, man.
Just go down and jam.
That's a good time.
So that was, I remember, a thing that they would like hold grades again. Like I remember being in 6th grade and then being like, you were bad at school, so you're grounded from jamming with your cousins. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like
That's rough.
like take anything else away. Like I want to play. You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, my parents they would have never done that. Like, they would have never been like, oh, I'm punishing you from that. That's.
But you don't have siblings that play.
No.
Your siblings don't play.
No, I only had one sibling, and she was
doesn't
born when I was 12.
Yeah, right.
So like I was already, by the time she was old enough to really take interest in an instrument, I kind of was like off doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that does kind of like I didn't have siblings, but I did have the cousins. So that does kind of shape your like you say that this is your first band, but you just named 3 different instances.
That is true.
Of like different arrangements of instruments.
There technically was a couple like that.
Yeah.
Because I did play in middle school in a band.
Right.
Yeah. So
You got to count those.
you
too.
do got to count them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do forget about that sometimes.
Well, yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know about me. I was like shortly after I came back from Colorado, which is when I got the drum set. Like I got really into Christianity.
Oh yeah.
And I was like a
That's
hardcore
so funny.
Christian. And our congregation that we were in was like 400 people. And my dad was a drummer. So he was, hey, do stuff with the praise band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do stuff. So I was like playing drums with the praise band, like actually like
But that's
playing shows.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm playing shows to like 400 people.
Right.
How old were you at this point?
Probably like 11, 10.
See, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh
It
no,
didn't stop him from throwing up at his first performance, though.
where I had a drum solo though, but
Well,
that was like
during the solo.
well, yeah,
That's
well,
funny
no,
Did you throw up on time?
no,
At
no,
least?
no. Well, no. So like after,
Diggity-diggity.
so like I eventually got out of the whole Christianity thing.
Well, yeah.
and then
It was your first band, though, right?
it was my first kind of
Yeah.
like thing of my own. I was in. Oh God. Okay, so they always make fun of me for the name, but I was in a little band called Summer Ice with 2 of my friends, Gene and Dan. Just really, really old, really good friends. Dan was the bassist. Gene was the guitarist. Gene was like a Led Zeppelin, Grateful Dead fan. He was
Yeah.
like, those were his bands. Like, boom, best bands ever.
Those are good influences.
And Dan was the guy who got me into like all the like Les Claypool and crazy bassists,
Nice.
and
Yeah,
like showed me how to really be fond of Cliff Burton.
Cool.
But we did like a bunch of songs, and one of them I had like a drum solo. So we like did this like open mic night at or open mic day. It was an open mic thing at a music store in Reading, and one of our songs we had a solo. So before our set, I
He's
went to the
nervous.
bathroom and vomited because I was so nervous,
nervous.
because it was an improvised solo.
Dude, it's crazy. And I remember you. Well, I've been nervous a million times.
I nailed it though.
No shame.
Well, from my perspective.
Yeah.
Like our first show at the Chameleon Club, our first plugged in show, we was just 3 of us. No bassist. Seeds. Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember being nervous as fuck. I remember you being nervous as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the vomit story. Like I don't know if I learned about it then.
Oh yeah, I probably
probably.
told
Pretty
you that.
sure
then.
you were like looking like you were gonna vomit or something. Like I just
Dude.
remember that show being like you just like
Ooh, I was
trying
struggling.
to hold it together, dude.
I was struggling.
Good times, man.
Yeah, but
10
that
years
show
ago
was
now.
pretty good for what we were. What we were.
You can find it on YouTube too.
That's
I'm pretty
wild.
sure it's still there.
Wishful Thinking
Yeah.
and Time Flow Zero.
Time Flow Zero.
I'm pretty sure if you look up Medusa's Disco
What, those are
and
songs
those,
that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
you'd
What?
like Time Flow Zero.
We should do it.
You'd like Time Flow Zero.
Yeah, that's
No,
cool.
I
It's
should
got
hear it
cool
first.
harmonies.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like well, I would say it's like 90s ish.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Nirvana ish.
That's fine.
But yeah, it is kind
Yeah.
of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'd like it.
I think you would too.
I'm
That's
gonna
cool.
check it. See, the thing that's fun to me, like I remember when I found out about like your Ghost Pepper
Yeah.
CD. So Hunter had this song, album that had some of what like Park Bench was on that and shit too. Right?
Park Bench, Freezer Burnt, Dead Man,
Yeah.
Eyes of Oceans.
And Doors with Keys and
Doors
stuff.
with Keys.
So I
Yeah.
remember hearing about that. Actually, Cody was playing Doors with Keys.
Yeah, that was a high school album. Yeah.
And so it's just interesting for me because I haven't been in the band forever. I've been in the band almost 4 years.
Yeah.
But I was a fan of the band. So like
Right.
that's just you just caught a genuine moment of me being like, what? There's like Medusas that I haven't heard.
Yeah.
Like that's
The
nuts.
fan perspective.
It's crazy
Yeah.
to me that I can still be. I'm in it, but there's still so much that
To uncover.
Yeah, well, you guys will say something,
Yeah.
or like even sometimes with like lyrics, I'll be like, "That's what's being said."
Yeah.
Like it's wild.
Alex probably still that way to this day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know all of our lyrics. Nope.
Yeah.
but that's why it's great. Was whenever we talk, sometimes you guys will like reminisce on something, and it's
Yeah.
like I'm hearing a new nugget, you know?
yeah, lots of nuggets.
Well, too, that
Lots
was
of nuggets in the van.
Yeah, man.
and that was back when like we were first starting and writing stuff. So the songs came like the Time Flow Zero came from Hunter and Wishful Thinking came from Winton.
Yep.
And like that was very much the case. Like you could tell that
Yeah.
it was very.
Well, that's the way it had
We
to
were
be.
we
Yeah.
were very in our I'd say infancy in terms of like approaching songwriting.
Collaboration.
Yeah, collaboration.
Yeah.
Just learning because we had played a lot acoustic together,
Yeah.
and we had a lot of fun times playing acoustic shows.
Did you ever write with your brother, like when you were first playing stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Like him. Well, I think I wrote with him like with Winton. Like
Gotcha.
they were both guitar players.
Yeah.
So we wrote together in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you sparked a memory. Yeah, and there was this other guy, Austin Color. That was the guy who I originally made music with before Winton.
Nice.
So that's the oldest collaborative member.
Yeah.
With my brother.
Yeah.
So yes,
The
we
three
did have
people.
songs. Yeah.
Somebody would bring it to the table, or you
Yeah,
guys would.
I remember my brother specifically bringing a guitar progression,
Yeah.
and then Austin would write lyrics.
Yeah.
And then I would bring a guitar progression.
Right.
Austin would write lyrics.
See, that's how it was for me when
Yeah.
I was with my cousins. Is we would just like none of us knew what we were doing, so you just
Yeah.
cobble something together as a group.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, like that you and Winton were so strong, like early on.
It's
that
true.
like even from there, you're like, I have this finished idea. I have this finished idea.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true.
And then you guys had to get to a spot where you could collaborate.
Right.
And fuse ideas together.
Yep.
But it's like, for me, it's way more natural to do it the way we do it because that's the way I learned how to write songs. Was like,
Yeah.
is this good? Is it? What is this? You
Well,
know,
that
figure
nugget,
it out.
That nugget
So
was
true.
always there. That nugget was always there.
The nugget
The,
of
the
collaboration.
the nugget of collaboration was always there.
Yeah.
It was just very small.
It was just
Yeah.
very small in the beginning. Yeah.
Well,
It was a seed.
Even that
Yep,
first
it was a
album.
seed.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
that first album, which is going to be 10 years old this year.
We were gonna talk about that.
Was very well. We'll talk about it next time.
Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, it's like very much Winton Hunter, and then you
Absolutely.
get to Fork
Yep.
Tongue Fables, and it's
Yep.
like these four people collaborating.
Yeah.
And
That's
talking
really
with
where
Ty,
you see it.
I'd love to get Ty in here to talk about
that's a great
Fork
idea.
Tongue,
Yeah.
because that's where he's like was talking to me about.
Let's talk about Fork Tongue and Ripe because he had
yeah.
huge contributions in Ripe.
Well, next time he's back,
right.
we'll get him
Right.
on here.
That's a great idea.
But it's
man.
probably a good time to stop for now, though.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. So check it out. That's
Yeah,
Van
makes
Brain.
sense.
Van Brain.
We'll talk about more stuff next time.
Yeah, that
but
was
yeah,
fun.
it's been
Yep,
good.
yep. Yeah, it's been good.
All
Good
right.
chat.
Cool. See you guys next time.
Peace out, y'all.
Deuces.